Okay everybody, this is mooneydashcam. If you enjoy these videos, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. I also have on Instagram and TikTok, both at mooneydashcam. I post on there daily. Alright, let's get into it. Ooh, look at this Lamborghini to start off the video. Nice. Alright, so today we are in Brooklyn, South Brooklyn, and we're going to be talking about Gregory Scarpa Sr. Also known as the Mad Hatter, more commonly known as the Grim Reaper. You'll find out why later in the video, trust me. Alright, so a little bit of his early life. I'm going to turn down here onto Bay 22nd Street. So we're kind of in Gravesend, Brooklyn, kind of in Bensonhurst. We're going to go back and forth a little bit. Alright. So, a little bit of his early life. His older brother kind of introduced him. It was one of those things where he saw these wise guys around the neighborhood, that they drove nice cars, didn't really do much for work, and was interested in that kind of life. Of course, it's like this flashy life. And then his brother kind of introduced him to the Colombo crime family, which he joined in the 50s. And then in 53, Scarpa was ordered to kill somebody, and he did it without hesitation, which kind of put him on the path to becoming a made man in the Colombo family. He got married. He ended up having one daughter and two sons, one being Gregory Scarpa Jr., which I'll talk about later too. And then he got separated in 73, later having two more kids with another woman. In between that, he had wives and girlfriends and stuff like that, but it's not necessary to get into. Crossing over Benson Avenue right now. And we're actually heading to the Wimpy Boys Social Club, which is where Scarpa hung out a lot with his crew. It's 7506 13th Avenue. Alright, so in 1962, Scarpa was arrested for armed robbery. And the FBI came to him, and he agreed to become an informant for the FBI. He would give them tips here and there about all the people that he was involved with and that he dealt with, since he was deep in, at this point he was a made man already, so he was deep into the Colombo family and others. So in 1964, the FBI decides to use Scarpa for something outside the Mafia. They brought him to Mississippi in hopes that they could get info on 3 civil rights activists that were suspected to be killed by the KKK. Flies down to Mississippi. The FBI gives him cash, and then he looks at one of them and he goes, "Yo, I'm going to need one of your guns." And they kind of were like hesitant to give him a gun, so they give him a gun. And he kidnaps the mayor, which is the person they suspected of doing the crime, or suspected had info on who let out the crime. Interrogated him, puts a gun to his head to try and get some info out of him, which some people would argue isn't the best way because it makes people lie, which in this case it actually did make him lie. So he goes back to the FBI agent, gives him the information. They said, oh, he lied. He goes back to the person, he puts the gun in his mouth, and he lies again. So now he's really pissed off. He goes back, he takes out a straight razor, unzips the mayor's pants. Of course, he tells the truth at that point with the threat of castration. Most people would tell the truth. And after that, Scarpa collects his money because he gets paid for being an informant. Collects his money, gives back the gun. Him and his girlfriend go on a vacation to Miami. Now, all fun and games for Scarpa. And then 2 years later, a very similar thing happened where a black-owned business was firebombed. It was a black-owned business / voter registration area. I think it was around an election, I'm not exactly sure. Was firebombed. So him and another FBI agent kidnapped the guy and beat him close to death, to the point where the guy was mentally messed up for the rest of his life. He didn't really like to talk about the incident. He was kind of like shell-shocked, like a war survivor, that type of thing. And he was this big country dude, tough guy, not like a normal dude that got beat up and turned into a wimp after that, you know. So then, in 1975 to 1980, Scarpa stopped working for the FBI, which I don't really know how that happens when... I don't know if you could just stop working for the FBI, but Scarpa was crazy, so who knows. Because the people that he trusted in the FBI moved to different positions, so he didn't trust working for anybody else. Until he met Lynn DeVecchio, who... One second here, we don't want to hit anybody. So he meets Lynn DeVecchio, who is supposed to... This is common FBI law enforcement rules. If your informant commits any crimes, or especially murder, they're supposed to end the relationship, and I'm pretty sure take them to jail. But DeVecchio decides to ignore the crimes, which is great, you know. It makes for a good story, right? So, one of the incidences, Dominic Somo, who was a Colombo member, was doing a robbery with Scarpa Jr., Gregory Scarpa's son, and Scarpa Jr. messed up. He made a mistake during he was being a lookout for the robbery, and Somo complained about that. I don't know if he complained to other mobsters or complained to Scarpa Jr., but it bothered him. And over that, Scarpa Sr. went and killed him. It was that easy to get killed by Gregory Scarpa. Hence the name, the Grim Reaper. Oh! Right now we're on New Utrecht Avenue. I might be saying that wrong. We're going to make a left on the Bay Ridge Parkway here in a second. We're only a few minutes away from the Wimpy Boys Social Club, which after that became a Sal's hairstylist and barbershop, and now it's vacant, it's for rent. I don't want to hear about it, by the light in the comments. So yeah, Scarpa killed Somo over that, and then later on, one of Scarpa's wife's bosses, so his wife's boss, who she was also fooling around with, which I don't know if he knew about at the time, he owned a medical clinic and got his medical license taken away. Something he was doing abortions and they weren't, it wasn't the most by the board thing. So he decides, the boss decides, maybe I could get my medical license back if I talk about Gregory Scarpa to the IRS. Obviously that's a bad decision. We know that. He maybe didn't know that at the time. So Scarpa and one of his friends goes to the boss's apartment and catches him in the lobby and shoots him right in the head in the lobby. Just like that. Doesn't take much for Scarpa to kill you. And his friend that he went to kill him with, later on Scarpa ordered to kill him. This is years later though. So, here are some of the crazy things. Oh, look at this house to the right here. It's a nice circular castle-like structure. Alright, just some facts on Scarpa. FBI says he killed 100 to 120 people. When he killed people, he would either use their pagers to page whoever he was doing the contract for, 666, or he would page them off his own pager. It's kind of unclear. I looked up articles that were saying different things. The things that he was involved with to make money were illegal gambling, loan sharking, extortion, hijacking, counterfeit credit cards, assault, stock and bond theft, drug trafficking, and murder. So there's people in the Mafia that are what you call earners, and kind of like the thugs and the goons who go around and commit murders and stuff like that. And Scarpa was both. He was a big earner. Right here. This vacant building with the gate down was the Wimpy Boys Social Club. This restaurant was actually, I believe it was here back then in those times too. So yeah, this is where a lot of stuff went on, crews meeting up, stuff like that. There was a story, I don't know how true this story was, that they killed a woman in the club because they thought that she would become an informant just from hearing them overhearing them speak about criminal activity. Killed her, rolled her up in a carpet, tossed her in a dumpster. Days later, a dog runs up with her ear in its mouth. That's one of those stories that sounds ridiculous, but you never know. It could be true. Did the dog really chew her ear off and bring it over? So yeah, Scarpa was a guy, he liked to dress nice. He always carried around like $5 grand cash. They said it was for bribing people, but it was a power thing, you know. He owned an apartment in Manhattan. He had a lot of money, this guy. He owned an apartment in Manhattan, a house in Brooklyn, a house in Staten Island, a house in Vegas, and a house in Singer Island, Florida. Now, these were not just regular houses, these were mansions in all these spots. This guy made a lot of money. Alright, now we're gonna go shoot over to Avenue U. We're gonna turn onto 79th Street. It's a cool block. Everything's very symmetrical. I don't know what you're doing there, buddy. I made their parallel park way more difficult than it had to be. I apologize. Yeah, so it was also said that Scarpa liked to brag that he lost count after 50 murders. Which is kind of a crazy thing to brag about, but I'm not surprised about anything that Scarpa does at this point. And a lot of high-ranking members of the Colombo family today were in Scarpa's crew, so he was like a big jumping off point, because I'm sure they did crazy stuff. Well, I know they did crazy stuff. Alright, so the third murder that he committed under the watch of the FBI was a man that owed a Colombo loan shark money. Scarpa lured him into a mob-owned club, tackled him, and shot him in the head. Not really surprised about that. Another one is a limo driver, Alfred Longobardi, who got drunk in Scarpa Jr.'s club and started insulting him. So Scarpa Sr. hired him to go to the airport with one of his friends, gets in the car, goes to the airport like everything's fine, gets out, shoots him in the head, leaves him in there. It's the kind of stuff he did all the time. Another driver that Scarpa used to bring his two kids with Linda and Joey from his longtime girlfriend. He used that driver to bring them to school a lot. One time the son, Joey, was sick, so he only brought the daughter. And he brought the daughter to the park and tried to rape her. Obviously, that's a big no-no in anyone's eyes, especially to Scarpa. So Scarpa catches the dude and beats him half to death, you know. And then after that, it was still bothering him. So Scarpa calls the guy up to do another job, which I don't know why the guy ever showed up, because, you know, he already tried to rape the guy's daughter. Calls him up for another job, shoots him in the head. Of course. So, in the time that he was informing for Lynn DeVecchio, from 1980 to 1992, he killed over 25 people. Pretty insane. Didn't get caught for any of those crimes until much, much later. And Lynn didn't get bothered about that until much, much later also. I I think he ended up getting indicted for some stuff, but it all got thrown out. It didn't last. So, this is where it takes kind of a weird turn. Scarpa suffered from a stomach ulcer from taking a bunch of aspirin a day from a back surgery. And in the 80s, he was hospitalized from it because he was bleeding internally, and it was bleeding so bad that he was gonna bleed to death. And he refused to use the hospital's blood bank because he was racist, and he didn't want, in his words, he didn't want any black people's blood. Great guy, you know? So, he got blood donations from his family, friends, and like other mob associates, which one of them happened to be a bodybuilder and used a dirty needle. The guy's name was Paul Melee, and transmitted HIV to Scarpa. Kind of maybe the best form of karma, you know? Not wanting to use the blood bank because you're racist, and then that results in you getting HIV. So within the next 5 years, it went from HIV to full AIDS. He went from like 225 pounds solid dude, tough guy, you know, fight anyone, kill anyone, down to 150 pounds. I'll add pictures of all that. So stuff gets even crazier. We're heading over to Avenue U right now because of this story I'm about to tell you. So the Colombo boss, Carmine Persico, knew he probably wasn't ever going to get out of jail. So he named Victor Arena the acting boss. But Victor wanted to be the full boss. He didn't get the backing from the commission, which the commission are the heads of all the families, all the 5 families, who kind of keeps the Mafia in check, so nothing gets too crazy. Arena didn't budge and started a Mafia civil war. Arena made the first move and tried to ambush... Oh, Scarpa was for Persico. He was on Persico's side. He was very loyal to him. Arena ambushed Scarpa outside his house with his daughter and his grandson, and everyone ended up escaping unharmed. I think they were in 2 separate cars. It turned into a little bit of a car chase. Nothing ever came of it. Scarpa, dying from AIDS, vowed to kill everyone in the Arena faction. He kind of used the fact that he was dying from AIDS to go ballistic. He's like, I'm dying anyways, let's just do whatever I have to do. So he would roll up and down Avenue U with a car full of dudes, and Avenue U had a lot of social clubs, a lot of people hanging out. He'd roll up and down and just look for members of the Arena faction and just on sight get into shootouts with them. On December 7th, in 1991 he killed 4 people of the faction. On December 7th, while a member of the Arena faction was hanging up Christmas lights outside his house, he drives by and shoots him up. The next day, there was a shooting at a Bay Ridge bagel shop where an innocent teen was killed, which I've mentioned this in my other Mafia videos. The Mafia kind of goes under the radar until something like this happens, where they kill someone innocent or something really crazy, a woman or child is killed, and then the whole neighborhood and the whole FBI and law enforcement cracks down. It's like, we're fine with you guys killing each other, but once it bleeds into our community, that's when we get bothered. So the 7-month war resulted in 12 members being killed and 80 being sent to prison, which caused the Colombos to lose their position of power within the 5 families. So in 1992, Scarpa was in civil court over the surgery that he had in his stomach. I think he was going to get like $300,000 from the suit. I don't know exactly. He was claiming malpractice. How true that is, who knows. So while he's in that court, he was arrested on weapons charges, then indicted on racketeering charges, including 3 murders. So that's fun. Be careful, the guys on bikes. I don't want to end up with a manslaughter charge myself, you know. Alright, now we're on Stillwell Avenue. We're going to be turning onto 86th Street a few blocks up. Alright, so yeah, he gets arrested on these charges, and he's on house arrest. I think until the trial, or I'm not exactly sure how it panned out, but he ends up on house arrest. Now, while on house arrest, two Lucchese mobsters threatened Scarpa's son, Joey, over a drug deal. So Greg Scarpa and Joey drove to their house, and Greg shot the guy, not knowing that the house was filled with guys. It turned into a shootout, and Greg Scarpa got his eye shot out. I'll add a picture of him with his missing eye. And he was taken off house arrest and taken back to jail. He then pleads guilty to 3 murders and conspiracy for others, but because of his health, his sentence was reduced from life down to 10 years. 1 year later, he died at 66 in 1994. Scarpa Jr. was sentenced to 40 years. He's believed to have killed 24 people. The charges were racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, and among other things. It didn't become public knowledge, not even any other mobsters knew, that Scarpa Sr. was an enforcer, an informant until 1995, after his death. So that had everyone shaking, because they all dealt with Scarpa, in their heads, knew he was a stand-up guy. And this guy was a murderer, so why would they suspect him of being an informant? So they would talk with him all the time. And everyone was all worried they were going to get sent away. And yeah, like I said, DeVecchio got charged with crimes, but it was all dropped in court, which, how does it end up getting dropped in court? Some fishiness going on there. Alright, I'll speed this video up and we'll end up at Avenue U. Alright, that was a quick speed up. I didn't realize how close I was to Avenue U, but here we are now. I don't exactly know the specific spots where most of the activity was, but this whole road was lined with... Oh, I blew that light. Can't deny that. I don't know what the specific area is that most of the activity was, like I said, but this was a street that was lined with social clubs, lined with all different places that the Mafia would hang out. And this is not some desolate industrial road to be trolling down with a car full of goons with guns and starting shootouts. This is a populated, kind of like a main area of the town to shop and whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to tell you about Gregory Scarpa Sr., the Grim Reaper. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Also, like I mentioned earlier, I have an Instagram and TikTok, both at mooneydashcam. I post on there daily. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.